Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of CSS Flexbox. Now in this video we are going to be talking about some basic usage for Flexbox because in the last one we kind of just went over an introduction and set up a basic HTML site and then set up the very basic Flexbox layout. But in this video we are going to actually be using Flexbox to do some of the stuff that it was built for. So the specifics that we'll be covering are the two axes, aka flex direction. Basically, like I said in the previous video, Flexbox is built to design one-dimensional layout. And what that means is generally when things appear in some sort of line, that's a one-dimensional layout. Like when it's all in one direction, that's one-dimensional. And often in like a lot of websites, you'll have a navigation bar and a footer and stuff like that. And that most often uses what's called row direction, which is just horizontal, versus actually, believe it or not, when you develop mobile apps using a framework like React Native, which I know you probably don't know what that is, or depending on who you are, but when you design apps, generally the layout for designing apps is in a column-based fashion. So it's basically like a Flexbox, except instead of going horizontally like normal, it's going vertically, so up and down. So each new item will create a new kind of, a new kind of row. So those are one of the topics, and then we'll be talking about two kind of CSS properties called justify content and align items, and these two are for positioning our elements. Because as you can see, I'm going to go ahead and fire up this index.html. So we're going to jump right in, but so I can quickly explain that last bit. As you can see, they're all kind of squished together right now because in the previous video we added some margin. But if I actually remove that margin, they're all squished together, as you can see. I'm going to keep the margin just to have a nice space between them, but they are squished by default. We want to make it so that they can occupy this entire space instead of just being here all squished to the left. Or they could, we could position them how we want. So yeah, that's what these two are for. So we're going to go ahead and start off with a small explanation of the two axes. As you can see, like this is a flex direction of row. And what that means is here in our nav UL, and if you remember, this is our nav element, this is our UL, and this UL is called our flex container, aka what holds our flex items. So you can think of the UL as our flex box, and then all of these LIs are the items that go inside that box, if that makes it easier to think about. So our Flexbox item here, or our Flexbox container, has a display of flex, and that's what makes it a Flexbox container. And it also by default has something called flex-direction :row. And this is default. If I remove this, it's the same. If I add it, it's the same. And the reason for that is it is set to row by default. Now watch what happens when I set it to column. Boom. All of a sudden, these items become like different rows. They become vertical instead of horizontal. And that's what the difference between row and column is. If I set it back to row, they're all horizontal. If I set it to column, they are vertical. And that's, again, that's what the two different axes are. Now, there's this concept of cross axes and main axes, I think, or yeah, I think it's like main and cross axes. And what that means is if we have our flex direction set to row by default, which is horizontally laid out, if all of the flex items are horizontally laid out, the main axis is this horizontal axis right here. And then the cross axis is that vertical axis. It's the perpendicular axis to the main one. So if I switch this to column, the main axis is now vertical, up and down. So meaning as you add new items, it'll go up and down. And the cross axis is left to right. And to kind of, to sort of illustrate like how that works, we're going to get into some examples. But first of all, I'm going to go ahead and set this back to row, flex direction right here. So that was like a small little explanation on like the two axes and their uses. Now, the first way we can actually start to position our items with Flexbox is using a property called justify content, justify dash content. And by default, this is set to flex dash start. And what that means is it's just where the flex starts at, which by default is the left side or the top. If the flex direction is column, notice the top is where the flex starts, aka where the first item goes. And if it's a row, it's at the left side. Now, if I switch justify content to flex end, watch what happens. Everything moves to the right. And the reason for this is, again, you're gonna need, I'm gonna keep repeating this because the concept of cross and main axes are very important when understanding how Flexbox is working here. So remember, when the flex direction is row, aka when the items are laid out from left to right or from horizontally, the main axis is horizontal and the cross axis is vertical. When it's the other way around and we change this to column, the main axis is vertical and the cross axis is horizontal. So the whole concept is justify content is basically changing the main axis. So when we have flex direction set to row, it's operating on this main axis here, which is horizontal, meaning it's when we say flex end, it'll go to the end of the main axis, which is to the right when it's a row. But say I change this to column. Notice it looks the same as if it was flex start, which is default. Flex start and flex end look the same. Whereas if we change this to a row, flex end looks like that and flex start looks like on the left, like normal. And the reason for that is notice the height of our container is kind of like at its maximum. So what we can do is we can actually give our container a bigger height. Let's just say height is 100 pixels. And I don't know if that's bigger. Nope, that's smaller. Let's make it like 500 pixels. Boom. So now notice this is like a better demonstration of how flex direction column works, because now that the height is bigger than all of the items, you can see they're all at the top, which is the flex start. But if I change it to flex end, they'll all move to the bottom. So notice that's the same deal. When I change it to row, they'll all move to the right. And when I change it to flex start, they'll all move to the left. And again, this whole thing where they're stretching out here, that's just like a little default piece of Flexbox. And actually, I honestly don't fully know how to kind of shrink these down to the required space. So this is a good time to illustrate again what software engineers do even on the job. Come here to Google. We say Flexbox elements are stretching, or Flexbox stop items from stretching, or something like that. Because what's happening here is half of the idea is figuring out what to Google. So notice when I'm saying items, so remember these little blue, these darker blue are flex items, because the flex container is this big light blue, and then the ones on the inside are called the items inside the container. And then notice how this only takes up this much like vertical space, aka height, but for some reason that dark blue is extending all the way to the bottom. And that's what we call stretching. It's stretching out, and it doesn't need to stretch out. So prevent flex items from stretching. Look, Stack Overflow. This is your biggest friend right here. StackOverflow.com, most useful site on earth. And boom, we scroll down, first accepted item. All right, so it seems to be related to align items, which is, if you look at my agenda here, align items is actually it is another concept that we're going to talk about. So like I said, justify content basically moves things along our main axis. So for row, flex start means to the left, and flex end means to the right. Now what align items does, it basically moves things along the cross axis. So remember, the main axis is this horizontal, the cross axis is this vertical. So if I set align items to flex dash start, we're gonna get them all here in the top right. But remember, our cross axis is vertical, which is top to bottom. If I change align items to flex end, they will, guess where they'll move? I'll pause the video for a couple seconds and guess. And then, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and save now. you guessed most likely correctly, they move to the right bottom because this justify content flex end, because the flex direction is row, it's changing the main axis, which is sending all the items to the right. And then this align items here is editing them along the cross axis, aka vertical, and it's setting them to the end, which is the bottom. Now, if we wanted to move the items to the top left, how do you think we would do that? You can go ahead and pause. Sorry. Okay, so if you notice, both of these are flex end here, and it's at the bottom right. So I mean, go ahead and just reverse both. Flex start on justify content will move these over to the left, and then flex start on align items will go ahead and move these up. And boom, we just reverse both, and that's how we get our layout to the top left. So that was one little cool thing. I'm going to remove the height for now since we're making a navigation bar, so it shouldn't actually be that tall. So yeah, this is back to our regular navigation bar. And if you notice, again, display flex makes this whole flex container. Flex direction row is set by default. Justify content flex start is set by default. And align items flex start isn't actually, by default, it's stretch. I realized, and that's why they were all stretching. But you know, we're going to go ahead and just remove that. So this is what we started with at the beginning because most of these are just default set, but I'm going to go ahead and uncomment them again. And comments are a way to kind of tell the compiler or tell our website to just ignore this code, meaning, you know, it's basically like deleting it, but not deleting it. So yeah, we're going to go ahead and re-add these two lines here. And then what we're going to want to do is play around with this justify content because there's not just flex start and flex end. There's also, let me see if I can make a list. Yeah, there's all of these right here. There's quite a few. Center is one that's used pretty often. And guess what it does? It centers the items just like this because flex start is for the left, flex end is for the right, and center is for the center. And then another one you can do is space around, which does this, you know. There's an even space in between each element has an even amount of space around it, and then there's space between, and that makes even space between the elements themselves. And then there is space evenly, which has an even space between each element. It's very confusing. I honestly do not know. I always get these three mixed up, so you have no reason to need to memorize it. But just know that all three of the space around between and evenly exist, and they create slightly different looking layouts. And then we're going to go ahead and set this back to flex start. So that is basically justify content. And again, it works the same for align items. If we set a height of 500 pixels again, align items by default is stretch. So if I set this here, it still does the same thing. If I set it to flex end, they'll move down. But I can do the same thing here. I can go center, they'll move to the center. And remember, the reason why they're all to the left is because our justify content is at flex start. And we can change it to space, or wait, actually, never mind. See, my bad. Align items, editing the cross axis, doesn't actually have all of them. It has flex start, flex end, center, and stretch. And those are the main ones, actually. So that was my bad. We're going to go ahead and set this to flex start. Now, again, what if you did want to have it space evenly on the cross axis, aka this vertical? Well, then we can just change our flex direction to column, and boom, we get this column layout. And then now we can set our justify content to space around, and now it's spacing on the vertical axis because our flex direction is now column instead of row. So our main axis becomes vertical and the cross axis becomes horizontal, and we can set this to center, and then we get that centering, you know. So you can see how you can play around with this, and you can basically make any sort of one-dimensional layout, again, because this is a line that goes straight down. If we change this to row, this is a line that goes left to right. It's all about one-dimensional layouts, and believe me, in the next video, we are going to be going even more because we can actually make it so that, let me go ahead and set this to some sort of default. We can actually make it so that home, for example, is here on the left, while these three are here on the right. And then, you know, we can do stuff like that, which, you know, which is pretty powerful. We can make all sorts of one-dimensional layouts. So yeah, this has been the basics of sort of Flexbox Flexbox layout, basic usage of Flexbox itself. I'm gonna go ahead and check off all of these. We didn't get to this example, but you know, this was supposed to be for me to kind of showcase align items, which I was gonna have a big title like here, and then have our links be very small, so that all of the links would be kind of pressing up against the top, and we could center them with align items center. That was like a practical example, but I think this example kind of like illustrates it pretty well too. Align items edits the cross axis, aka the non-main axis. So yeah, this has been basic uses of Flexbox. If you want to see more videos in this Flexbox mini series, or if you just want to check out other series of mine, go ahead and check out my playlists linked on my channel, or this specific playlist linked in the description where I upload daily. If you enjoyed the video, please consider giving a like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for notifications when I upload new videos. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.